Ron DeSantis is refusing to answer Kamala Harris's phone call.
It's utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish, and it is about political gamesmanship.
For Kamala Harris to try to say that my sole focus on the people of Florida is somehow selfish is delusional. She has never contributed anything. She's the first one who's trying to politicize the storm. She knows she's doing poorly. I don't have time for political games.
Hurricane drama. They're saying Ron DeSantis is refusing to answer Kamala Harris's phone call. Ron came out, went category 5 on the media and said, this is not true at all, okay? She didn't call me, and she's trying to make this political. Why doesn't she stay out of our affairs? She's done nothing to support us, historically speaking, and he's working with other people who are actually competent to solve this problem. Okay, here was the report. It said he's refusing to take her phone calls. She called, and the source of all this came from some DeSantis aide, not even named. A source familiar with the situation said that DeSantis was dodging Kamala because they, quote, seemed political, according to a DeSantis aide. Kamala was trying to reach out, and we didn't have an answer, the DeSantis aide told NBC News. DeSantis has been in direct contact with FEMA. At a press conference on Monday, DeSantis denied that he refused to take the call. He said, I didn't know that she had called. I'm not sure who they called. They didn't call me. Their characterization of it was something that they did. It wasn't anything that anybody in my office did in terms of saying it was political. And he says they didn't call his phone. So they went to Karine, and she brought it up. And so it turned into this big scandal, and even Kamala came out, and the media is asking her about this. Why isn't Ron answering your calls? Is this professional? How are you going to do to save Florida?
President, NBC is reporting Governor DeSantis is ignoring your calls on hurricanes, resources, and help. How does that hurt the situation here?
You know, moments of crisis, if nothing else, should really be the moment that anyone who calls themselves a leader says they're going to put politics aside and put the people first. People are in desperate need of support right now, and playing political games with this moment in these crisis situations, these are the height of emergency situations, is just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish, and it is about political gamesmanship instead of doing the job that you took an oath to do, which is to put the people first.
Madam Vice President.
All right, so they always do that, right? They give these people like the dumbest questions, and then she answers them, and then takes 1 or 2 questions and goes up the flight of stairs. So she comes out, she's ranting about Ron DeSantis, who's actually there doing things. And so Ron came back out. As you saw, he had a press conference where he said this was all nonsense from her camp. But here is Ron explaining more.
Right, and Hurricane Helene was a Category 4 storm. It did significant damage to the state of Florida. We've been on this footing now for 2 weeks straight in terms of preparation, response, and now we have an even bigger storm that's bearing down, as you pointed out, in a very populated area, potentially could do even more damage. And we've been laser focused on leveraging all resources available, including from the federal government. And I've been in touch with both FEMA and the president, as well as marshaling all our state agencies and working to support our local communities. And so for Kamala Harris to try to say that my sole focus on the people of Florida is somehow selfish is delusional. She has no role in this. In fact, she's been vice president for 3.5 years. I've dealt with a number of storms under this administration. She has never contributed anything to any of these efforts. And so what I think is selfish is her trying to blunder into this. No. And here's the thing. She has no role. No, she has no role in this process.
So has she ever called before this event? Or did she call this time and then they did not answer? Or did she not call this time? Or did the call actually happen?
I'm in contact with the President of the United States. I'm in contact with FEMA director. I'm obviously managing all our state agencies. We're supporting all our local government. And I will say this. I've had storms under both President Trump and President Biden, and I've worked well with both of them. She's the first one who's trying to politicize the storm, and she's doing that just because of her campaign. She's trying to get some type of an edge. She knows she's doing poorly, and so she's playing these political games. I don't have time for political games. I've got peoples whose lives are on the line. I've got peoples whose homes and their possessions are on the line, and we are focused 100% on that mission. I'm not worried about playing her political games, and so she is being selfish by trying to blunder into this when we're working doing just fine.
You had properly staged. You are ready for Milton. You have all the utility trucks. You have food. You have water. You have supplies. All staged, all ready to come in right behind the hurricane, as you always do. Governor Kemp, same thing. Governor McMaster, same thing.
So this has the potential to be one of the most damaging storms in the history of our country.
Yeah, it is not looking good. Everything that is on X, people are looking at the millibars. People are studying, and I was reading about this yesterday right here, this pressure, 897 millibars right there. That is the pressure in the eye of the hurricane, my understanding. And the lower that gets, like if it's under 900, that's like, whoa. Not good. And it's under 900. Like 900 to 920 is like category 5, like hit the panic button. And if it's under 900, that's not good. And it's under 900. In fact, somebody was saying that there may have been another inner eye wall forming last night and that it might actually drop that lower than that and increase. When it drops lower, I think it increases the wind speed a bit based on the mechanics of the hurricane. And it's not good. So we're keeping our prayers open and alive and active for all of our friends out there. But this scandal continued. So on CNN, Cooper was talking about it, and the White House was pushing back on this. They're saying, I answered the call, or I didn't answer the call, or you didn't even call.
What do you make of that sort of playing out?
I think everyone's still being afraid of having that Chris Christie hugging Obama moment of embracing, a different political partisan. But the reality is this, like, I worked for Vice President Pence, and anytime there was a major natural disaster, he would also be calling governors, members of Congress in the areas that were affected. It's not just the president. So,
well, he's a
yes, she's a
competent,
candidate,
more
but
competent
it's also
person.
an entirely appropriate thing for the Vice President of the United States to be doing. And it's a moment for him to rise to the occasion of leadership and show, hurricanes don't choose Republicans or Democrats. This is going to be a whole of government effort. And I would just also note that, especially North Carolina, and we don't even know what damage Milton is going to cause, there is going to be years of rebuilding. There's going to need to be congressional supplementals to pay for this. Those are things that are done on a bipartisan basis. And Donald Trump stoking fear, lying about it now, doesn't exactly bode well for if he is to be reelected, that he's going to assist those areas and that he's not going to let politics affect it, and he's going to work across the aisle to get people what they have.
Okay, so Trump's going to do a worse job than they're doing at, I guess, recovering from hurricanes. Now, Scott Jennings has been doing a great job over on CNN. If you haven't been following him, you should be. But he has been responding to this, saying, they're the ones who are playing games with this. Ron DeSantis is there working his butt off to try to keep his state afloat.
I mean, she's attacking the governor of a state that's about to get lashed with one of the most historic hurricanes we've ever seen. Is she crazy? He did not ignore her call.
She was
He did not
talking,
ignore
just
her
to be
call.
clear, she was talking broadly about the politicization of the storms.
I think she was talking about Ron DeSantis. He did not ignore her call. And in fact, according to what I've read tonight, he actually spoke to the president of the United States,
He did
Joe
speak
Biden.
with President Biden.
And he has said time and again that he and the federal government are working well together. So who here is politicizing this?
Yeah, I
Harris.
hate to agree with Scott on anything, but I agree. I agree in this case.
I actually agree with you that there's too much disinformation, misinformation, or things that are not factual swirling about the hurricane. I actually think the facts are bad enough. When the storm came ashore, Biden was at the beach and Harris was raising money, and that was on September 26th. On September 27th, we had devastation in North Carolina. It wasn't until October the 2nd that the president mobilized the military, and it wasn't until the 5th that they mobilized 500 search and rescue out of the military. So I think there's two things going on. The immediate impacted people and what they need and what they can get. People need to consult their local officials and governors about that. But there is a conversation to be had here about spending priorities, yes, and also about presidential decision-making, which in my opinion and in the opinion of a lot of Republicans was really, really slow.
I think if you zoom out on this, what the Kamala campaign is doing is they're trying to pick a fight with Ron DeSantis to distract us from their performance on the hurricane, right? The hurricane is now about DeSantis politicizing the hurricane. It's not about the crap federal government's response to the hurricane, right? If the hurricane hits, which is going to, and the devastation is going to be big, right? If it hits as everybody's anticipating it to hit, then when the federal government is terrible, as they are regularly, they will have set up for us a nice little scapegoat, which will be Ron DeSantis, who Ron politicized this. It's not the federal government who screwed it up. It's Ron for not taking Kamala's fake phone call. And then they'll be able to just use him as the bad guy indefinitely.